things. The bar thing came up, so I met somebody in Rockaway, and I was like, if we could do this bar in New York, we'd make a killing. Just a simple burger and wings, and like I know I have a captive audience with skaters.
Yeah.
And just people who come through town, like bands who come through town, or pro surfers and whomever who comes through town.
Yeah.
You just pull them in, and then that starts the catalyst for everything else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened, and it grew after that. I started asking people like, "Hey, do you know this little bar Epstein's?" And they're like, "Epstein's, yeah, I was there last week." It's its own animal. It was great.
It was the place to go,
And Max Fish. It was like Max Fish and I were like the two Lower East Side haunts.
You had good brunch too. I remember you had brunch at one point.
Brunch was chaos. I didn't
And were you living in Rockaway, or were you living in the city at that time?
I was living all over. I lived downtown. Lived in Park Slope for a minute. I was married at the time.
I remember you were married. She worked at Quiksilver, right?
She worked at New Line Cinema.
New Line Cinema.
And that's when I went and did the hub. That's when we met.
Okay.
When
Yeah.
I was working at New Line. So it was funny because we went on the company outing for like the summer party, and it's like we were on different floors. So it's like, yeah, if the joke was, it's like, if you don't know who this person is, they probably work at the hub.
Yeah.
So that was it. And we hit it off and found love, got married, got divorced. An American love story.
Yeah. I mean, that's life. That's life,
Yep.
I mean,
I'm in a much better place right now.
What was were just the burden of everything kind of going on with Epstein's and all that, or?
No, I feel like it's funny how things kind of fall out. It's like I did a little show, oddly at the Rockaway Surf Club.
Yeah.
And the whole thing sold out.
Fun.
And I was like, wait, what is going on here? And it was all this bubble stuff, and it was still kind of in its infancy, and I was still trying to figure it out and work it through, and figure out what I was doing, and like, does it mean anything? And I was like, it doesn't have to mean anything. Like, let people figure it out. It has to be that simple, and like, it's not about, like I said, writing the great American screenplay.
Good
and,
art.
like, imposing my like values and beliefs and what I deem as beautiful or an interesting picture.
Good art, a lot of the times, is in the eye of the beholder, right?
That's
like,
what they say, I've been told.
It's really, and that's like, it's whatever people want it to be. If they want to put meaning onto it, they can.
That is exactly what this bubble thing is. It's like I'm leaving it up to the observer to figure out what it is, whether they have a deeper purpose on it or whether it's just as simple as like a bubble.
And what's interesting is how you're doing it kind of out, not like a normal, like through a gallery.
Correct.
Like you're doing a lot of stuff direct. Like the world has allowed you to do your artwork and sell it directly through your social media, basically.
Yes.
That must have been pretty cool to kind of discover or to realize like, oh, I don't need someone to represent me. I don't need any of this bullshit overhead to make a living and do my artwork.
Well, again, a beautiful thing about the internet and exclusively Instagram, for me, is like everybody has a phone in their pocket.
Yeah.
And you can directly market to those people. And you don't need a gallery. You don't need a brick and mortar gallery per se.
Yeah.
That just gives you they just deem you worthy.
Yeah.
If people like it, that in and of itself is deeming it worthy to me.
Yeah.
So, I don't need some snobbery and Soho telling me that this is the next hottest thing, and I don't need to go to Art Basel. I'm happy, cultivating what I'm doing now and making, and, doing shows with people I love, like Joey down here at Almeida, and, teaming up and using all the tools that I already have and connections and people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
Like June and Matt and Vast, and doing fun things with Vast, and all the while, making fun projects like paintings. I enjoy painting.
That's like got to be pretty liberating.
It's amazing. That's what I'm saying. It's like I was stepping over $1 for a dime this whole time, meaning like I was trying to like do a bar so I could subsidize my art. And it's meanwhile I wasn't focusing on my art. I was like focused on this other thing and trying to make that thing work. So I can therefore it'll subsidize me painting when I should have just been focused on the art and making painting work.
What has that meant for you personally in your own like private life then? Has that given you a lot more freedom in that way? What do you...
Yeah, I'm in control of my own destiny per se. It's like I don't have a boss to answer to.
Mm-hmm.
I have to make myself happy within this context. It's like not even a financial thing. It's like just about making yourself happy. And it's funny because the bubbles, when you look it up, mean happiness.
Yeah.
In a childlike mind state. It's like, and bubbles just, who doesn't like a fucking bubble? You know what I mean? Like blowing bubbles, seeing bubbles, all kinds of, that connotation in and of itself just means just a good time.
You feel pretty happy now?
Hell yeah. I mean, look, I just turned 50 last year, and I'm living like a college student, but I'm happier than I've ever been.
Yeah. And you live
And
out...
I'm free. And I live in LA, and I have this great girl that I'm seeing now, Megan King, shout outs, love her.
Shout out.
And we got a great little thing going. It's like, it's like she's the best.
And you surfing
I'm
heaps?
surfing a ton. And then I get back, I still have privileges to fly, so I can come back here, see my folks.
Yeah.
Surf down the block from my house with Jimmy Dowd and Keone, who I was just out with today. And we had a blast. There's the three of us out in like, I was like, this is amazing. It's a 60-degree day in November.
Yeah.
And we're in a 3-2. What the fuck? That's amazing. I want that in Cal. I would go to fly to California to get that. I got it in my own backyard. It was so great.
So, circling back then to your thoughts on some of the changes that have happened here in Rockaway.
Yeah.
Like first I remember like during Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
Your parents' home got
Decimated.
just annihilated.
Yes.
And to see kind of Rockaway, Rockaway was already kind of trending before that. And then to me, it feels like after Sandy, it almost like went on a crazy inverted, kind of takeoff.
Right. Well, I mean, basically it was like it wiped the slate clean, not to be,
Yeah.
egregious about it. But it literally took out the boardwalk. It took out people's livelihoods in their homes and decimated. Everybody had to start from ground zero again and start literally building back everything. And with that, with any great tragedy, there comes, greatness follows it. So it brought attention to Rockaway, which is a good thing. Some people will say a bad thing because they had a nice little, their own little paradise here and nobody bothered them. But now it's inundated with people.
You can't find parking in the summer.
You can't find parking. There's a ferry. There's a hotel here now. These are all great things.
Yeah.
This is it's connecting us to the greatest city in the world, but it's also connecting us to the greatest city in the world. So with that, it's like, what are you going to do?
I always was like, how have people not taken advantage of it? For so long, large portion of Rockaway went underserved.
Correct.
And the city didn't really take care of it. And there were parts of it that, had its
everyone
bubble.
got pushed to the fringes. There's a lot of old age homes and kind of mental facilities up on 116th Street where they just dope people up and then push them out on the boardwalk and wrangle them back in at the end of the day. So that that's the optics on that aren't great.
No.
So it that kind of will paint a negative picture for people if they come down here. I'm not going to go down there.
Yeah, you didn't really,
I don't need to go to the Bowery at the beach. You know what I mean?
No, and it really, it went neglected. But I was always like, how beachfront property,
right?
A subway ride from the city.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me for years.
I remember, coming here when I was going to college in the late '90s and being like, how is like I was like, I didn't have the money or wherewithal, but I was like, fuck, I should buy a place here because one day someone is going to do something here because it only makes sense.
Right, yeah.
And it's amazing
But like,
that it
look
took
at
so
Arvern
long.
by the Sea. I
Yeah.
mean, they went. I have to give hats off to them. I mean, they built that whole community down there that was just
There was
a
nothing.
wasteland. It was just overrun lots.
Yeah.
And they went in. They built a Stop and Shop. They built a YMCA. They built streets, planted trees, made all of these things.
Put
and
affordable
developed
housing.
Affordable housing. You can buy a house, and it built into the house was a rental unit, so you
Yeah.
can subsidize your mortgage. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. It was incredible.
This is an arguable, and people will argue at this point, obviously. But I thought that was a great idea. You're building a community. You're not just coming in and strip mining it.
No, you really.
In my eyes, at least.
Yeah.
People think that, like, whatever, they're, developers being opportunists. But I don't think that's the case.
It felt responsible,
Yeah, well, they built a YMCA. They built infrastructure.
Yeah, built
Which
amenities.
is what it needed. Yeah, and it's like exactly what you're saying. It was like I would go to California, and you see like Newport Beach, and you're like, this would never happen in Newport Beach. A vacant lot.
I know.
It's insane. No
I
way.
know. Yeah.
Like, go to 15th Street or something, 25th Street, and like right on that hot, the hottest 100 yards where like Quiksilver and all that stuff was developed.
Yeah.
There was no way they just let it lay dormant.
No way.
It's insane.
So I mean, it's
Venice is a good example of that now.
Yeah.
Venice was kind of a shithole back in the day. No one
Yeah.
wanted to go there. Now you can't even I've joked about it. Like, you leave Venice. You used to leave Venice before it got dark. Now people go to dinner. It's true.
So, with that change, though, there's been some, obviously, there's any every light casts a shadow, I feel like, and there's always positive and there's always going to be something to balance it out. So, obviously, the crowds have been kind of a sore point for some old school locals.
Well, on that note, I'm going to quote a very wise man named Dorian Paskowitz. And Dorian Paskowitz says, "A good surfer doesn't see a crowd." It's very true.
I don't see a crowd. I see spectators for my surfing.
That's a good way to put it too.
Unless I'm kooking out, then
then you're on the world stage. But well, back to a little bit of the localism thing, and like kooks and holding court and holding down a spot. I think that the one problem with surfing in too many people is there's a lot of novices that don't understand how it impacts other people. Basically, it's like you let go of your board. You're like, oh, well, this is what happens. I'm human. It's an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you should have the wherewithal so we're all enjoying it, not just you and letting go of a board and getting hit in the head. I don't want to get skegged in the head, and that's when I start yelling at people. Is when I don't want to I've gotten hit with boards. I've jumped over people. And then you start yelling because you get hot under the collar, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I come out here to calm down, not to get. I can sit on the Mill Parkway and yell at people.
Yeah.
It's like road rage in the water.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept. It's like somebody cuts you off.
It does.
And we're just human beings, and it's like it'll flare up anybody. Even if
anytime you feel threatened, especially anytime you feel physically threatened, there's this natural reaction to want to lash out and react because you're trying to protect yourself.
Yes, exactly. You're trying to protect yourself, and that's my biggest point. It's like I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at you so you understand that I don't want to get hurt. I don't want you getting hurt, and don't let go of your board. Hold on to your board, and if you can't surf, move down the beach. You don't need to be at the peak where everybody else is trying to have a good time, and it's quite frankly been here for years.
Yeah.
And figuring it out. I just saw a student driver sticker on the car the other day. I was like, that would be brilliant. If people had to put student surfer stickers on their boards.
Well, I've always
you just already know. It's like
I've always felt it would be really cool if surfing were more like a martial art and you had like a belt. Yeah.
That's true too, yeah.
Wave key style.
Great key. Shout out, Gurr. That's
Gurr.
my boy.
That stuff has changed. Like, honestly, about a month ago, I was struggling to get to my feet.